All right.
Hello everyone, welcome to today's show. My name is Spencer Walsh. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We got a lot of stuff to get to. The economy is humming, but should Trump be using this more in his midterm election strategy? His fellow Republicans certainly think so. The creepy porn lawyer went on Tucker Carlson recently. We'll take a look at that, and should he be running for president? We'll be talking about that as well. Also, we're taking a look at Fear, the new Trump book by Bob Woodward. Paul Manafort pleading guilty in the Russia investigation. And we're also going to take a look at the progressive blue wave and how it's going to be affecting one of the Senate's top Republicans. And of course, joining me here today is David Langan. Thank you so much for joining us today.
For having me.
All right. Yeah, we do got a lot of stuff to get to today. As the Democrats are entering the fall midterm campaign, there's a lot of confidence going on. And first, I want to start by asking you, like, what's the outlook in your mind, David, for the upcoming midterms?
That's a good question. I think that we've learned that you can't trust polls. So, whatever. And you can always see in partisan polls how wildly those numbers swing. I think it's all up for grabs either way. It's not a done deal, and the Republicans will probably lose some House seats, but it may not be that many.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think depending on how they campaign, they can certainly, like, a lot of it is definitely up for grabs here, but I mean, I do think you could be placing a little bit too much on polls, because if you remember in the election, they weren't polling anything about the Electoral College, but it was like Trump was down 2 points on election day, maybe in the final polling, and then he ended up losing the popular vote by about that same margin. So I mean, I guess some of the situations are not the most ideal, maybe when it comes to states and polling, and primary polling can be inaccurate, but I think just the general consensus is the Democrats do have a good chance to get the House and maybe pick up some seats. And the Senate I also do agree, is a lot up for grabs, but I think it all depends on how they campaign.
Yes, I agree. I think, as Tip O'Neill famously said, all politics are local. So even though we have the boogeyman not on the ballot, people will bring that to the polls, but they vote local. They care about what happens in their own states, in their own communities. So I think that imagining that a blue wave will come simply on the hatred of Donald Trump, I think that's a big mistake.
Yeah, or you can make like maybe a blue pool wave, some very small blue wave. But if you really want a real big blue wave, I think you're definitely gonna have to run on something else. You're gonna have to give someone out there who's like voted for Trump maybe the last time and doesn't like the way the Democrats are going now. You're going to actually have to give them something good to vote for. You're going to have to give them an alternative.
Yes, I agree. I think a race in Ohio is much different from a race in a Republican district in California. The economy will play differently in different places, and as you alluded to in the early part of the show, should Republicans be talking about the economy? I think it depends on where you're campaigning.
Yeah, but I mean, there is definitely a lot of, because Trump is really hitting the campaign trail a lot. And to the dismay of party leaders, according to the New York Times, the healthy economy and Trump have become countervailing forces. The decline in unemployment and soaring gross domestic product, along with the tax overhaul, Republicans argue is fueling the growth, have been obscured by the president's inflammatory moves on immigration. Vladimir Putin and other Front Party leaders say. These self-elected rooms since early summer have helped push Trump's approval rating below 40% and the fortunes of his party down with him. And I mean, honestly, some of the things, like, I personally would think the Republicans should, for their own benefit, talk more about their policy. But as someone who doesn't really think very highly of the Republicans taking back the House and really would not like to see that happen or maintaining their position in government, I mean, I'd say keep it up. What about you?
You know what? It's to me, the most important thing about any election is something as simple as, am I doing better now than I was when the last guy was in charge? And I think almost everywhere you look, and by any measure, the answer would have to be, yes, I'm doing better. Votes can become emotional. Logic is, if we're working on just economic logic, Republicans are a shoo-in. But it doesn't seem to work that way. And races are about just as much about marketing and product placement, for lack of a better term, than it is about what's actually happening. So, and I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of races you're already seeing them turn horribly negative.
Yeah, there's definitely been some already that have been, like recently the New York governor's primary has even gotten pretty negative.
That got very ugly, and I don't think it's to almost long-term benefit.
Yeah, and also another thing is he noticed that he did bring up Trump quite a lot in
situations. Yes, he did. He's running for president.
Had nothing to do with Trump, which was funny. But he did interestingly say, he said he's going to stay in the governor's office unless God strikes him dead. But,
well, it wouldn't be the first time he told a lie.
Yes, that is true. Like saying he could disband the IDC.
He's been involved. You know, I actually think he'd be a pretty poor choice for national office.
I would agree.
He's got so much baggage between corruption issues and failed economic development attempts. I don't know that he should be the poster boy for the Democratic Party.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I don't think he would really appeal to a lot of people. I mean, he would just walk around saying like, "Oh," I mean, he'd probably try a different campaign track for the whole country than like going into like a New York rally and saying like, "I'm undocumented. I'm like black. I'm a woman or whatever." It's just he does say weird things like that. But what I really wanted to ask was talking about Trump, and like the fact that he does bring up Trump a lot could mean that Trump's actually going to hurt rather than help a lot of these people who are running on the Republican side here in the midterms. What do you think?
I'm sure that that's what a lot of their internal polling says. Otherwise, you wouldn't see it. And such a people, and again, it depends on where you are, right? People are distancing themselves from him in some places, and really attaching themselves to him in other places. It depends on how red. Yeah,
I mean, what were you saying?
No, that's it. Just depends on how red or blue a state is. I mean, there are some people with bigger problems, and there are some. Arizona's interesting, and nobody wanted McCain's endorsement, which I thought was kind of interesting. Well, not nobody, but it was offered and refused in some quarters. So, we'll see how that turns out. But then I think if you're in a truly red state, it doesn't hurt to be associated with Donald Trump. If you're in a coal state, he's a messiah.
Yeah, if you're running like Alabama, like you want to play, or Florida, for example, you want to play i.e. Ron DeSantis, you want to play your connections up with Donald Trump like as much as humanly possible, because he's one of the most popular presidents with his base. Like he has 90% approval with the Republicans, which is incredible.
Right. Again, we're talking about polls. He has the highest approval rating ever among the same party voters.
Yeah, which just shows you again like the polarization in the country and like how all the bubbles that exist.
It is incredible. The internet and the dissection of markets have been a boon for business and a boon for communication, but at the same time has been so detrimental to national cohesion. I don't think that I've never seen this people's own living rooms as I have in the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just really quite incredible, and it's very hard at this point. Like you see, like Barack Obama trying to make pitches to Republican voters in some way, shape, or form. Like I just don't know if that's it just doesn't seem like making a pitch to Republican voters. I just don't think like the Republican voters who are out there who are listening to like the type of thing Barack Obama was saying. Like, oh, Donald Trump is this. He's not really conservative. He's not this. He's not that. Like, I don't think besides, like, Bill Kristol, there are not too many people out there in the actual real world who would really subscribe to that notion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's exactly right. And because of how we dice and slice the market of voters, and because of the instant availability of communication, it's no longer possible to truly isolate a given constituency, to have a conversation like a town hall conversation where the message doesn't leave the area. Messages leave given areas at the speed of light through someone's telephone and access to a vast communication network. So, Barack Obama can speak to as many people as he likes, but then that becomes covered as news and broadcast to a swath of people at large who then get to poo-poo the whole thing to one of the audiences that he's trying to attract. It's an incredible battle.
Yeah, because like you can have people who would believe that, like they get the speech played back on Fox News and they put their spin on it, and then it's like, of course, it's not that going to be the same thing.
Well, it's all spin. We know that. You just spend time watching every network, and you can see how this works. I mean, if you watch Fox, you won't see any coverage of events that are portrayed in the Mueller case, the conviction of Paul Manafort. Let's take that as an example. Yes, that's the only fact. Conviction of Paul Manafort, and now a plea deal. But on CNN, that means he's gonna bury Donald Trump with Russia collusion, and on Fox, it means that he's only pleading guilty to tax fraud, and everything else he's going to say is about tax fraud, not about Donald Trump. Now, somewhere in the middle is the truth, right? But we've separated ourselves into so many tribes, and nobody wants to see anybody else's point of view, so we've made sure that we don't. It's the media that plays a ratings game, which is similar. It's exactly how political candidates manage their campaigns. It's a ratings game, right? How many people can I get to care about me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It has become so transparently phony that every once in a while I just turn it all off. I don't even read the newspaper because I just can't take the spin.
Yeah, it's just like living in that kind of